Hi everyone, so today I'm making a 6x6 multi-diamond panel card. Now this I've adapted slightly, so I originally did one, I've done one similar to this before, but this one is slightly different. I know Mixed Up Crafts has done one of these as well. I've done mine slightly different, as I said. Instead of having all squares, I've changed it up a little bit, so you'll see, you'll see when I go through it. The other thing as well is I've also added in, so this is on acetate, and then I've added in an extra like mini card blank on the inside, so you can actually got somewhere to write your message. I also explain a couple of other options in the video as well, different ways you could do it. The papers that I've used today are from my new So Fabulous paper kit. So this is the new digital paper kit. It's available over on my Etsy store. I've already used a couple of these in things, and you've kind of seen little sneaky peeks of it. So this is a So Fabulous kit. So I've tried to, I love this page. I love this page particularly, and these two together, oh, just gorgeous. So I've tried to kind of keep some really busy prints and some calmer prints, and I've kept it all kind of within your same kind of color scheme. So you've got little spools of yarn. This is kind of, when you see the whole thing, it's kind of like a satin. It's like a pink satin. And then you've got this one with all your little safety pins and yarn and pin cushions. This is kind of like an ombre, but again it blends in with the colours that you have there. And then I've done exactly the same again, so exactly the same print, except for this one is on a like a woven cotton. Well, I suppose not cotton, is it? It's probably more like your linen kind of thing. Then we've got this again, a satin, but in like a purpley satin. And then I've gone for that exact same fabric texture, but just as a plain. And then I've gone for the exact same, well, it's not the same exact, it's a variation on this one. It's got scissors on it as well. And then I've also got this one as well, which has got all your little, yarns and scissors. So I've tried to keep it so you've got a real mix of things, some highly patterned, some more plainer ones, so they all kind of mix match together, all in the same colorways. So yeah, so that's the So Fabulous pack, and it's over on my Etsy store. I'll put a link up now on the screen, and there's also, well, I'll put the details on the screen now. There'll also be a link in the description below the video as well, so go and check that out. So yeah, so that's the card. So let's get into it. Okay, so for this card, it's a relatively simple one. I've tweaked things a little bit from the one that I saw online. But you're going to need a 6x12 piece of card or a 6x6 card blank. So I'm using this one from Dovecraft. This is an actual 6x6. Sometimes they say they're 6x6, but they're not. They're actual 5 3/4 by 5 3/4. But this one is a 6x6 card blank. So that's just card blank. If you've got a 6x12, you just need to score it in half at 6 inches. And also you'll need some other base pieces. So you're going to need 4 pieces of base card that are 2x2, and you're going to need 2 pieces of base card that are 2x6 1/4. So onto these, you are going to need, let's start with the long ones first. So the 2 long ones that are 2x6 1/4, onto these you're going to need to stick 2 matte pieces that are 1 3/4 by 6, and 2 pattern pieces that are 1 1/2 by 5 3/4, and they're going to go on like that. So I'm going to go ahead and stick those down. Okay, so you end up with that, so they can go to one side. Then you need your 4 pieces that were 2x2, and onto that you want to put 4 pieces of matte that are 1 3/4 by 1 3/4, and 4 pieces of pattern that are 1 1/2 by 1 1/2. So I'm going to go ahead and stick all these down. So you end up with your 4 little squares like that. So they can go to one side for now as well. Then you're going to need a pattern piece that is 5 1/2 by 5 1/2. And you're going to need a matte piece that is 5 3/4 by 11 1/2. Now, I'm using a single-sided piece of matte. Okay, so if you want to see what you do with a big piece that you fold in half, then check out my live stream that I did a week or so ago. But if, like me, you've only got, you want to use single-sided card, I mean, I could really have left this as a whole piece and just scored it and folded it, because that is white on the inside, but I didn't want to waste all of that lovely matte and lose it, so because it's a nice mirror card. So what I've done is I've taken my 5 3/4 by 11 3/4, which is the length of an A4, and I've cut it down so that I've got one piece that's 5 3/4 by 5 3/4, and that's the remainder. And the remainder piece measures 5 3/4 by 5 7/8. So I really need to score it at 5 3/4, but that's going to leave a very narrow gap. So I'm actually going to score it at 5 5/8, which means it will be slightly shorter on the inside, but I would rather do that and have a bit more of a tab. You'll see in a minute what I mean. While we've got the scoreboard out, you also need a piece of acetate that is 6 inches by 6.5, and you're just going to score at 1/2 inch. And I'm just going to fold and burnish that 1/2 inch. Okay, so you end up with that. Right, so now what we want to do is kind of assemble our card together. So we're going to bring in our card blank. Now we're going to do something a little bit unusual with this. What we're going to do is I'm going to put this, so normally obviously you'd have it kind of as a tent fold, or you'd have it as a side opening. However, I didn't want to have a tab of acetate, you know, at the back of my card, if I use a 6x6 panel, and have this tab at the back that you could see, and then you'd have to cover it. So I just thought what I'll do is I'll get a 6x6 card blank and put it on the inside here like that, and then stick this entire thing together so this becomes one piece and that becomes one piece, and then it's all nicely folded up, enclosed, and we haven't got to worry about it. So that's what I'm going to do. So with that in mind, I'm going to open this up, and I'm going to put a line of red tape just along the top here and also along the top there, so it sticks both sides of the acetate. I would definitely use red tape for this section because you're using acetate and it's kind of like a main part of the card. Then for the rest here, it's literally going to be card to card. So for this bit here, I'm actually, in fact, let me stick the acetate down first, and then I'm going to Yoo-hoo glue it shut. So here's my acetate. So I'm just going to lay that on the top like that, lay it down, and then we're going to take the backing off this tape and stick that to that red tape. So you end up with this kind of weird Z fold. It's going to end up like this way around, but that's all going to be stuck together as one. Okay, so now what I want to do is I'm going to peel the backing off this side first, all of it, and then I'm going to add some Yoo-hoo wet glue just on the inside here and just cover this whole section. Now normally I wouldn't use Yoo-hoo where I've got acetate, but obviously because it's not actually sticking onto the acetate, it's not a problem. So it's going to cover that whole section like that, and then we're going to fold this all the way up like that and stick that down. Okay, give it a good stick. I'm going to burnish that edge a bit better. So that whole section now has just become one piece of card, and then you've got your acetate. So you've now got a tent fold card. You've nicely enclosed your acetate. No one's got to see it. You haven't got to worry about trying to cut another piece and it not quite fitting on the back, because it's a card blank, you know it's going to fit. So that's how I've solved that problem. So if you're using 2 pieces like I am of matte card, you're not going for the full length. If you're using the full length, all you need to do, so if you've got a piece, like I said, that was 5 3/4 by 11.5 of double-sided matte, all you need to do is score it halfway at 5 3/4, fold it so it makes a card blank. So you imagine you've got like that's folded card blank, and then you're just going to stick that as a top fold in here, so you've got like a top folded card, obviously with a border. But as I said, because mine's you know, I don't want to lose this lovely pink mirror, so what I'm going to do is I'm just going to make sure that I've got the 5 3/4 edge. Yep, I have. I'm just going to bend along this score line that I did. So this was like the excess, this was like at 5/8, 5 5/8, so that's there like that, and then that is going to stick behind this piece here. So we're kind of making a little card blank, but we're just making sure that we've got pink mirror wherever we, you know, look, that's important. So I'm going to stick a piece of red tape on here. This is way more complicated than it needs to be, but I just really wanted to use this mat because it went with the papers. But I really didn't want to lose all that lovely mat behind the card. It just seemed like a waste. So as you can see, I've made a card blank. I mean, you can see this tab here, but it's on the inside, so it's not. It doesn't bother me that much. And also the other thing as well is this is just slightly shorter because of the, you know, the fact it's not quite. I didn't quite have enough, but that's fine. Again, that doesn't really bother me. So then what we're going to do is this piece is going to go in here like that. Line that all up, and you're just going to stick the back of this down onto here. Okay, so you end up with this. You've got your acetate on the front, and the other thing is you just need to make sure, because this is getting quite bulky now, so that's going to splay out quite a bit. But anyway, what you need to do, regardless, is next you've got your pattern piece, and that is going to stick on there like that. So there's your piece of pattern paper on the front. So then we need to bring in those two long pieces. So these are going to go across like that. So one's going to go like that, and the other one is going to go like that. Just make sure when you're sticking them down, they're pretty much, you know, you've got an even kind of width here and here, here and here. So they're nice and, you know, right angle. They're not kind of like this, for example. They're nice and sort of square on each other. So go ahead and stick those down. You can either use red tape, or you can use, if you've got an adhesive that sticks well onto acetate, you could use that, or you can just use normal tape. I'm going to go with normal tape just because of, yeah, because it's cheaper and it's easier to apply. So there you end up with that. Just be mindful of how thick your layers are. I wasn't, and so now I've got a very chunky card. This is going to be very chunky by the time it's finished. So just be mindful of that. I was more focused on trying to get the right colour. So now what we're going to do is go ahead and add our squares. So our squares are just going to fill in the gaps here. So you're going to need one there. You're going to need one here. You're going to need one over here. Just try and make sure your little gaps between the squares are kind of even, and one here. Now I was going to put it onto put them onto pads, but because it's quite chunky, I'm thinking I probably won't. So I think I'm just going to stick them. Oh, I might use pads because I've got quite a bit of chunk already, so I kind of feel like I need a bit of something just to raise them up. So I'm going to use thinner pads. And then hopefully these are a little bit thinner, so I'm going to use those. Oh, I've got these actually that are really thin. They might do. Yeah, I might use those. Might use the really thin ones. So it just raises them up a little bit, but it doesn't, you know, make it really super raised. So I'm going to go ahead and stick these down. So that's what we're up to so far. So if you wanted to, you could add a 3x3 square on the front. I quite like the 4 squares, the way you can see. So I'm just going to put a greeting on the front, I think, and just like a circular greeting or something, like a shaped greeting maybe, and leave it at that. So I'm going to go ahead now and get a greeting and put it on. The sunshine is creeping on my desk, so I'm against the time. So first of all, before we put, I found a little just for you, so that's going to go on the front there. And then we also need on the inside here a white piece that's 5.5 by 5.5, and that's just going to go in there. Now mine is needs to be slightly shorter because my inner is just slightly shorter. So I'm just going to go ahead, trim a little tiny bit off this, and then I'm going to stick that down. Okay, so we've stuck the middle bit down, so now we're just going to come to the front. I'm just going to re-burnish these because they are getting a bit, because I've got so many layers there, it is struggling somewhat. There we go, and then I'm going to go ahead and stick that one on the front. So there you go, there's your finished card. So I'm hoping the sun's not making it too difficult to see. It is for me on my screen, but I think usually when I come to edit it looks fine. But yeah, so that's your card. So obviously you've got the acetate front, you've got this extra piece here, and then you can write inside. If you wanted to, you could just skip that whole inner card fold section, and you could just put your message on the back. Or if you want to, you could skip the acetate section and stick these straight onto that card front. I just quite like the idea of having the, you know, because also when it stands up, if you want to, you can kind of stand it up so that it's more like that, and that kicks out the back. So it's really, you know, up to you what you do. Or you could do it that way around if you wanted to as well. You could do it this way around. So it's really up to you. There's different options there. But yes, I hope you like the card. Please like and subscribe. Go and check out my Etsy shop. I'll put a link on the screen and also in the description below. I've got quite a few paper packs out now, and there's more coming soon. So yeah, but go and check it out, and I'll see you all soon. Bye.